Welcome, in front of me is a Motorola Edge, and today I'll go over unboxing along with a brief overview of the device itself. So starting off, this is the box that it comes in, obviously, so no one really cares about the box, so let's get rid of it fairly quickly. We get some paperwork, again no one really cares about that. We get a casing, probably some people will care about this one. It seems a fairly nice case. I'm gonna set it to the side and come back to it shortly. Let's get the paperwork out of the way, then we get the phone itself. Now it's already set up, so there won't be need for that. Then some more paperwork along with the SIM eject tool. Again, no one cares about this. We get an 18-watt charger, kind of mediocre charger honestly. We get some headphones, wired ones. The device has a headphone jack, as you can see right over here. So nice touch that they added those. Then we get also the charging cable, as you can see. So it's a Type A to Type C. This is typical stuff. Now let's get that out of the way and move to the phone itself. So let's first pop on the case, which kind of destroys, in my opinion, the look of it. So as you can see, the case adds a fairly hefty amount of bulk, especially at the top and bottom, and that's primarily where it can only hold. Other than that, it kind of, as you can see, flaps. That's primarily because it doesn't have any edge to catch onto it. The display is taking most of the sides, so they can only catch it on the top and the bottom. But it seems like it's fairly thick on the top and the bottom as well, so should protect the device fairly well. Now also it adds those bezels on the top and bottom, so you can place your phone on its face like so, and your screen won't get scratched. So yeah, now let's pop it off. Honestly, I'm the biggest fan of it. It's nice that they included it, but not my taste in case. So let's pop it over. Hello, device. There we go. So let's max out the brightness. So as you can see, the device comes with a fairly stock Android. Motorola is fairly good at it. They don't really add much blows to it. They only add a couple of different things, like you can see this little button right here. That's to enable the gesture navigations, which I guess they kept still the option there, even though they now have it in the setup screen. So kind of not sure why it's there, but it's still nice. And they also have their Moto app, which adds a bunch of different parts to, well, the settings, I would say. So if we go into Moto Actions, you can see that there's a couple different shortcuts and usability options that you can find in here, along with the gestures and stuff like that. So fairly nice. And that's primarily where you can find all the Moto apps, along with in the settings. I believe it's also in here somewhere, or at least I remembered it was. But as you can see, apart from that, it's a fairly stock feeling Android, not much to it. Now moving on to the main part of this, which is probably the display. It's a 6.7-inch display with a resolution of 1080 by 2340. It's an OLED display, and comes with 90 Hz refresh rate, so you'll get this nice smooth animations. I'm really happy that they added the 90 Hz here. It really adds to the experience of the device, and the device, with its price and overall specification, aims to be a mid-range device. There's also a flagship that they make. It looks exactly the same, has primarily majority of the specs in terms of the display same. It's the Motorola Edge Plus, but it comes with a better processor and graphics, and their display apparently is certified to HDR10 Plus instead of just 10 like this one, but also costs twice as much basically. So you get you get flagship specs, but you also pay premium for it. And this device is more catered to the people that want to have something that looks like flagship and semi-performs like it, but don't want to actually pay $1,000 for a phone. So moving further along with the display. Now, the front of the display, you have the Cornell Gorilla Glass 5, and also because of the resolution, the display has a density of 38 or 385 pixels per inch, so fairly dense display. Honestly, it's just kind of at this point, from what I've seen, a trend in 2020 at least for all the mid-range devices and even some flagships to come with a 1080p resolution. Personally, I'm not really huge fan of having anything higher. It doesn't really benefit me much. I can't see the pixel density that well, so anything higher than 1080p just kind of, to me, is whatever. It's more of a boasting, I guess, about look at our phone, it has higher resolution, even though you won't be really able to use it, in my opinion. And primarily most of the devices in 2020 had the pixels per inch somewhere around 400, so it shoots basically around the flagship specs here in terms of the display. But what it kind of succeeds at is the screen to body ratio. Now on here you don't really see the bezels. You only see, if you see something dark, it's the discoloration of the display. It's a bit of a downside to this display that literally wraps around, as you can see. So this is still the display, and as you can see icons on here. So the display wraps literally around the entire phone, and it is something nice to look at. Although, like I said, it does have some drawbacks with the discoloration because it's so wrapped. It's basically a 90 angle right here. It makes it feel darkish on the sides, and I'm not sure if I kind of like that aspect. Myself, I'm using a Mate 20 Pro, which also has a rounded edges, but they're not as drastic, as you can see, as they are on here. So I like the rounded displays. I'm not sure if this one won't be too much, honestly, but I bet there's some people that will really enjoy it. Honestly, if I'm using this at the moment, since I have the phone in my hand, it does feel really nice, with the downside of those discolorations. And also, as you can see, because this display is taking majority of the screen, the only bezels that you have is on the top and the bottom. Primarily at the bottom is where you can see it. And also you have the hole punch camera, which is really minimalistic. If you choose the right wallpaper for this phone, I'm pretty sure you won't even see that there is a hole punched in there, assuming you don't actually pull down the notification panel, which will show it briefly. But they do a fairly good job at hiding it. As you can see, when you pull down the notification panel, it goes all the way down and has this black bar, so you don't actually see it on the white background. Now, moving on to the next part, it would be the camera setup. As you can see, there is a quad camera setup, or at least 3 cameras. I wouldn't call the last one a camera, really. But the main pixel shooter is a 64 megapixel wide sensor. It's the main one. Then you have an 8 megapixel telephoto lens, 16 megapixel ultra wide, and the last one, like I said, that I wouldn't really consider a camera, it's the time of flight 3D depth sensor. So it will basically sense the depth, how far an object is, to, for instance, improve the bokeh effect. And all those combined, it's nothing really special here. It shoots videos, for instance, at 4K 30 and 1080p at 30 and 60. It does also have some stabilization in it. And overall, when it comes down to photo quality, I have to say it's decent. From what I can't really test it. I literally have this device right now and it's still fairly light outside. The only thing that I can't test really is the night mode, but from what I've seen, the device kind of struggles with the bit darker areas when you have environments, for instance, like at night. It will make just colors will be muddy and the pictures will be overly less detailed and a little bit, well, they will lose a lot in quality. But in normal lighting conditions, I would say that it actually captures better photos than what I have been using myself. Like I said previously, the Mate 20 Pro, and I can actually show a couple comparisons that I have captured. So there's the backyard that I have captured, assuming I haven't reset the device, which I guess I did. So I guess that's sad. I can't really show it. It's been reset, so don't have those pictures anymore. But it did capture them fairly detailed, more detailed than, for instance, what my phone can do. And 2 years ago, that was one of the highest specs phone in terms of the camera performance. So this device, from what I've tested, took better, more detailed photos, and also more color accurate. They were more representative of what I have seen outside, rather than what my phone actually takes. But like I said, from what I've seen, the phone struggles during night, which this is something that my old phone does succeed at, and it does it fairly well. So I guess you get something for something. I can actually, place a prop right here and capture a couple photos, see how detailed they will come out. So let's pop it open and see what it will do. Now it gives you a little guide right here. Cool, I don't really care, there we go. So you can already see the drastic bokeh that is happening in the background. Now, one thing that I realized from using this device for like an hour or so is their notification sounds. They're kind of obnoxious and feel a little bit too over the top. Not the biggest fan of it. I would prefer something simple, quick, and not as well loud. As you can see, the photo is fairly detailed, although it does struggle at one point where most of the photos that I take do struggle, which is the top right here. Majority of the phones for some reason have problem with capturing the detail in this red area. So again, this is one of the phones that does struggle with it as well. Now let me try to maybe get a better photo of it. Maybe I can make it work out better. So it doesn't seem to be getting any better. Now, not exactly sure how to enable the macro lens. Oh wait, I think I do. There we go. So we have the macro right here. So let's see how the macro does. Now I already tested it as well, so I know it works fairly well. As you can see, I can get really close up to the subject. It's basically about 2 fingers away in terms of like thickness, I would say. Kind of weird measurement. It's about a couple of centimeters, I would say, or about an inch away. So let's try to make. As you can see, it can get really close up and we'll still keep the detail in it. So maybe that was a little bit too close here. Let's see the other one. Okay, so this one was the other one. It does make them a little bit blurry. I don't really understand why. But as you can see, it does fairly well in terms of the performance right here. Now I'm gonna set it to the side, and just as a comparison, I'm gonna capture a photo using my phone, also in macro, just so you can get a comparison. I believe in terms of a macro, if I could actually get the light there, my phone might be doing a little bit better. So as you can see, in terms of a macro, there is, not really no comparison here in terms of the detail. Now in certain cases I did manage to capture fairly close comparisons, but for some reason this was not it. Maybe the reflective surface wasn't, the phone wasn't too happy about it, but you can clearly see the drastic difference. Now apart from the color, which honestly seems a little bit too saturated in here and a little bit too, well, too desaturated on my phone. The macro isn't the greatest, and probably optimal conditions it can do a great job or decent job, but it still kind of falls and lags behind. Now what this phone also has, which I was kind of surprised, is the video mode for macro, so you can record footage in macro. And let's see if I can actually gather. There we go. As you can see, you can normally record something. Let me mute it quickly, and let's go to the gallery, move this out of the way, and there we go. So let's actually put it in landscape. There we go, auto rotate, there we go. So you can see there's no actual stabilization, I would say. It's kind of wobbly all over the place, but the quality is actually really decent, I have to say. So maybe the photos were just kind of off here and because of the lighting, I'm not exactly sure. But okay, moving on from the back cameras, which are fairly good, like I said. We're gonna go to the front one, which is only a single lens 25 megapixel wide sensor that can shoot videos at 1080p at 30 frames. So just as an example, we're gonna launch it right now, flip it over, and well, there I am. Now I can already see that the colors are a little bit off here. I think it's a little bit too saturated, at least in terms of my face. And also looks like it does some kind of smoothing here. I don't have a skin of a 15-year-old, I think. So yeah. Now let's see how it will do in terms of a photo. Well, that's disorienting when it flips the photo. But you can see, apart from the skin smoothing, which is fairly minimal, still there, that it does capture, for instance, things like hair really well, I have to say. There is no bokeh effect, though, as you can see from the background right here. So yeah, let's see if we can actually find a mode for this. It looks like there isn't any. So I assume the only bokeh effect you will get is if you're using the rear camera and then go for something like a normal portrait mode when it detects a face. Otherwise, as you can see, this has no bokeh effect whatsoever. Okay, so moving on to the actual specifications of the device. So this is a mid-range phone, and it comes with a mid-range processor, which is a Snapdragon 765G, so it is 5G enabled. It also has a couple of variants in terms of a memory, so it has 4 gigs or 6 gigs, and both of them have only one option in terms of a storage, which is 128 gigs with a UFS 2.1, which is a little bit of a shame. I would really like to see a 3.0. So you could get really fast transfer speeds, for instance, from your computer to the device and vice versa, and overall writes to the device itself. But still, I guess it is a mid-range device, so it comes with a mid-range option right here. Now the storage, apart from having only 128 gigs, it is expandable via an SD card, so thumbs up for that. Really enjoy the fact that they decided to actually give you the ability to expand the storage. And apart from that, the device has also a 4500 milliamp hour battery, so it's a really big battery here, and it should last you a really decent amount of time. Now, from what Motorola claims, it's apparently like a 2-day battery. But because of that battery, the device is a little bit chunkier. As you can see, it is not the thinnest phone on the block here, comparing it to this one, for instance. So it does add fairly substantial amount of thickness to it. There we go. So, but honestly, with that with the phone being thicker than the majority of the other ones. It doesn't actually feel really bulky in hands. It does feel really slick actually. That's primarily because of the actual screen being long and slim and kind of wrapping around. Majority of the thickness, I would say, comes from also the screen itself. As you can see, it does wrap fairly far back, so that is why I would say it's so thick here. And apart from that, the battery, going back to it, it comes with a, like I said before, an 18-watt fast charger. Now this is probably the lowest point of the device right here, the charger, and the charging speed of it at, well, only 18 watts. So personally, I would really like to see something better. I would gladly pay more for a faster charger, especially for such a huge battery right here. It will be at the slower side of the charging spectrum right here, and probably majority of the other phones will charge faster. Now, I do have one phone around here that I did review recently. Where have I placed it? There we go. The LG Velvet, which is similar in design, a little bit bigger though, and I believe this one has even worse charging. Now, comparing it just side by side, as you can see, they are quite different. They're similar specs. Both have the same processors, about the same amount of RAM around. This one is thinner and has a different display. Still curved, it's just not that much. Has a notch here and has the not so preferable LG skinning. So yeah, and the cameras are worse. But in terms of device like this, because this is basically the same market here, so things like the Realme X50, the LG Velvet, this one, or even OnePlus 8, they're all competing against each other, and honestly, this device will be, in my opinion, better than majority of them that I have tested, well, in the past couple days, majority of those phones. And I am actually pleasantly surprised by this device. It hits for the flagship killer phone, with having mid-range specifications but being decent at those specifications and still not breaking your wallet. And probably the last thing that I will say is the build quality of it. So we have the plastic back. It does kind of look like glass, honestly, but it is plastic. It has no wireless charging, so that's a little bit of a shame. It has aluminum frame, so that will add a little bit to the actual rigidness of the device, which, well, is pleasant to see, considering that most of the device is the screen. So any kind of probably bends to it might, well, literally break the screen. Now, I assume I haven't checked it. And apart from that, the device comes in two different colors. So we have the solar black and midnight magenta. The color I have right here, let's see if I can quickly find it, is the solar black. So this is how it looks like. Now, it doesn't actually look like black, honestly. It also has that rainbow effect, as you can see on the camera. So not sure if this, I would classify this as black. And what else is there to say? The device has all the things that you would expect, like NFC, fingerprint. Now, as you can see, there is no fingerprint anywhere around here, and the fingerprint is actually under the display. Now I'm going to quickly add it just so you can see how quick it works. So let's find it. So it's going to be right here. There we go. And I'm going to quickly set it up so we can both see how well this will work. Okay, so as you can see, we have added the fingerprint and select the device. So it's not the fastest one. I think OnePlus's fingerprint are better in terms of how quick they respond to it, but it's still not bad. It does its job, and it does it fairly well, I would say. Now, one additional things that I'll add. Motorola did add a couple different things for their display because of its curve. They added some kind of like notifications that can be displayed on the side. Now, when I was laying down, I think when I had some kind of notifications and I would wave my hand in front of it, it did lit up the edges, like just a single edge right here. And they also have some notification messages, or well, notification lighting, I will assume. But only when you place the phone on its screen, which personally I'm not a fan of doing that. Just kind of makes me not too comfortable placing the phone on its screen. I prefer to just slap it on the back, where when it gets scratched it won't be well, agitating me. So nice that they included something, just kind of would prefer to not actually have to place it on my screen. And yeah, so that's about it. The last thing that I'll add is the price, which is around $550. So at this price range, it does compete against, well, majority of the mid-range phones, and it is marketed for that. And honestly, it's a really good device. I really enjoy the fact that Motorola added, or well, didn't add unnecessary bloat, which they're fairly good at, like I said before, just by having the almost stock Android feel. Really enjoy that. The only thing that that I like more than the Android stock feeling is the OnePlus's One UI, or whatever. No, not One UI. The whatever their UI is called, but it's also one like the Android version, but they added a little bit more to it, which I really enjoyed. And yeah, so that will conclude the overview of the device, and if you found this very helpful, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and thanks for watching.